Welcome back, everybody. Today it's a blustery day outside in sunny Grahamstown, South Africa, so please excuse potentially a bit of wind noise in the background. Today I'm going to explain something that isn't really very often brought up when it comes to sculptural videos or my sculptural videos, but so much more goes into a sculpture project than just the sculpting of the piece itself. You know, there's the concept that needs to be arrived upon, there's the artwork that needs to be done, there's the casting. But one thing that isn't really focused on very often is the delivery of the piece. So today I'm going to spend a little bit of time explaining a little bit of a blast from the past, as they would say. On, I think it was the 18th of December 2020, I delivered a life-size lioness on a rock. How did the project come about? I had the absolute honor of meeting a wonderful family, an international family that have invested a bit of money into this country, which is desperately needed for conservation. And they have a little, not so little, but they have a property north of Johannesburg in the Polokwane area. Anyway, to cut a long story short, the husband wanted a gift for his wife, and what could be better than an indelible bronze for your wife? And what he wanted he wanted me to do a lioness on a rock that had poise, it had power, it had agility, it had a caringness about it. So we sort of kicked the idea around a little bit, and I came up with a concept or a maquette for the client. And essentially, as you can see, what that was is it's a lioness on a rock. And there it is. So what I did is I did the maquette. I sent photos of the maquette to the client who was overseas at the time. He approved the artwork. And then from there, I took measurements off this maquette and I sculpted a life-size version of it. Long story short, lots of back and forth photographs, approvals, etc., etc. I sculpted the piece down in the Cape, in the Western Cape of South Africa. I then took it to the foundry, and about 8 weeks later it was produced and cast into bronze. Now we had to get the piece from the foundry to its resting place, so to speak. It's the place where it was going to be, and that's the game reserve up in Polokwane. 1,800 kilometers drive. So my wife and I, there was only one way of getting it there. One, because I install pieces like that myself, and two, there's only one way really of getting that, and then that's by transporting it up by car or by trailer. So we loaded the sculpture onto a trailer, and we took the picturesque drive up the garden route from Cape Town all the way up the coast, past Knysna, Plettenberg Bay, Port Elizabeth to Grahamstown, where I live at the moment and our studio is. And from there we overnighted and then took the task up through Johannesburg up to the Polokwane area where the game reserve was. We passed rivers, we passed bridges, we passed the fantastic Karoo, wide open areas, and really enjoyed the trip. I'll be honest, driving's not my favorite thing to do, but it was a fun trip. It really was a fun trip. It went without too much of a problem. When one transports life-size pieces, it's very important that they're anchored down properly, that they're protected, because too much movement, you get a lot of rubbing and the patina can rub off, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, we arrived in very much the COVID era, and we obviously had to do our COVID tests and all that type of thing. We were fortunately COVID free, and we went to the lodge, and unfortunately I had 2 weeks before I'd done a mountain bike race, which is a 1,100 kilometer race from Bloemfontein all the way down to Wellington in the Cape, and not too far into it, at 10 o'clock at night, I went into an ant bear hole, and I popped my AC joint. I ripped all the ligaments off and detached my bicep, and as a result you won't see me picking up the bronze. The only reason I added that is that you'll see photographs of me, you won't see photographs of me picking up the sculpture. But anyway, the sculpture was exceedingly heavy. It was a good couple of 100 kilograms. And as a result, we had to muster up some strong young men, and they carried the sculpture into place. We couldn't drive the trailer to the final resting place of the sculpture because of the location where we decided. Anyway, to cut a long story short, we carried it on, and we toyed with a few ideas of where the place could go. And I can say hand on heart, where this piece ended up is one of the nicest, most fitting places I've ever put a sculpture. I've done lots of sculptures, I've done lots of commissions, but the final place was at the bottom of a mowed, manicured lawn onto the bush, and in the background there was this rock formation, this rocky outcrop, which absolutely perfectly tied in with the type of rock that this base was done on. And was it done on purpose? No. I didn't know that there was that rocky outcrop in the background. Now, I will concede to that, but it just worked so beautifully. And you know, when I look at photographs of that position, I'm filled with pride. One, for the piece, that the clients were very happy, but it just worked. It just absolutely worked. And although the sculpture is an indelible bronze and it's cold by nature, it just looked at home. It just really, really looked at home. So I think back with a lot of pride, you know, just looking at it, what more can you ask as an artist? You know, we sculpt. It's not an easy way of making a living, but we sculpt for those moments. We really sculpt for those moments where you've got a happy client, and where in potentially thousands of years' time that piece could still be sitting there, celebrating wildlife, celebrating the environment. And so that's the story of the delivery of the lioness on a rock, from concept right through to its resting place on a beautiful private game reserve north of Johannesburg, not far from the Botswana border. And that's the story.